Diane, I'm listening to a podcast, Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life.
Tonight I can especially be your first mate.
That just sounds goddamn sexy. See, Matt's not here. This is the stuff.
No, we can be as gnarly and nasty. Like, Dad's away, so we can have fun tonight.
Yes. So, again, everyone, welcome to Black Lodge Trivia Night. As you can see, we are down a Matt. He's had some under the weather going on in his household, and secondarily, we wish everybody the best. Primarily, we question his loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't dip your toes in the lobster pot enough, like, if you can't stand the heat of the lobster pot, then get out of the boil. So, right. What are you having today? You having some lime water today, sir?
It's always so. Even before we get to the trivia question, let's get to the treat yourself. What pampering do you have going on? And anything going on with you right now?
Well, I've got my vest, my Hugh Hefner on, my
nice.
Hugh Hefner special, and they didn't have Papa Pilar sherry cask, so I'm just drinking regular Papa Pilar tonight.
Very nice. And I feel like we have to save the candles and the cucumber slices for the actual sessions. Oh, you got a candle?
No, it is not lit in honor of in solidarity with Matt not being here today. So
I have to stop being such a basic bitch and get on some candle action.
That's a confusing statement, but yes.
I need to be a basic bitch and get on the...
Yes, now we're talking.
Is that it? Okay, there we go.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's like boo season, so you need to get some falling leaves and some, what other flavors of candle? Tobacco and sage bush. I don't know.
Sounds very armpity.
I say that we have a sage candle. Not okay. Wow, I'm gonna see now. All of the Wiccans just got involved. We have a sage candle, but it's like Italian garden or whatever. But it's mostly sage.
Nice, very nice. And sage is the one that dispels the spirits.
Yeah. So my house has been spirit free since 2018 too. So.
Just like my Mara. I can't do no. Hey, baby, that's not true. She doesn't watch. So I will tease this before we get to the meat of the show. I might have some candles en route. They might be here for the next official session. We'll have to see.
Are they sent from hell candles?
I'm gonna hold.
I think they're still on a break. But
I was gonna say when you guys talked about that they were on a break, I sort of pulled back a little bit and tried to find something else. But hopefully I can debut them in the next Otari or whatever's next week.
I think, I mean, since we finished, I mean, we're in this kind of weird holding pattern now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because we've got Otari, but we don't have the third seat filled right now. So
yeah. Well, and I want to just don't need tons of detail, because this is going on the internet, but how are you holding up? You're in a little bit good.
Yeah. Baby should be here.
Whenever.
We're down to 2 weeks, so it's
all right.
And there's our second sponsor for the night, Trojan Condom. Oh, never mind.
Crotch candles.
Crotch candles. No, we're very excited.
Nice. But you must be in go bag prep. Windows.
Yeah, no, I was actually getting my go bag ready tonight before we go. We're very going. Nice. So yeah, my wife. We can edit that out or not. Yeah, my wife and the baby's go bag are ready to go and already in the car, and the
nice.
All of the car seat and everything's.
I was about to ask the car seat. Yep.
Yeah, I need to take it to the fire station this weekend to have them jiggle.
Yep.
And make sure, insult my install skills. But
is this as tight as you could get it?
Sir, we don't know if we can trust you with the baby. Why don't you take your wife home one of these calendars with all of these buff firemen on it? She obviously could use it. So
I'll say this. One of the thoughts my wife and I had leaving the hospital is, oh my God, I can't believe they're letting us leave.
Yeah. We're very close to feeling that
Yeah.
because I think everybody feels this way. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
totally jump the shark here. I feel like in my head, the voice that's Patrick, the
Right.
voices that I hear in my head, right? Um, it's still that same like 16, like it stopped
Yeah.
growing at
Mm-hmm.
16. And it's like, okay, well, I'm still like 16 or 17 in my head.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, now I have another little human it's terrifying. It's
Yeah.
exciting, but terrifying.
And I'll tell you, I don't know if it means I'm developmentally stunted, but that part doesn't change. Like in my head,
Okay,
I'm
good,
still the
good.
way I was when I was like 18,
Yeah.
beginning of college.
Yep. It just
And
stops right there. I
yeah,
keep waiting for the day that it's gonna flip over and I'll be like, I need to throw out like my band t-shirts and I need to get like
no.
suspenders, like and start
Right.
talking about stocks and Roth IRAs. Like
Well, I mean, why not both is where because even
this
like
is true. This is
yeah,
true.
even my father when he was like 72, he's like, I'll be honest with you. Like I know when I look in the mirror, I'm 72, but when I'm
Yeah.
doing shit, I feel exactly the same mentally as I did.
That's so
Yeah.
it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Like I wonder it feels like a anyway, that's a
Yeah.
that's a that's a software and a hardware issue there
Yeah.
somewhere. It didn't sync up, but
Yeah.
for all of us.
Yeah. Well, anyway, well, I'm glad to hear all that. And, yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. I'm ready,
Yeah.
I'm ready to be poor and sleep deprived. So that's
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
but I mean so basically just exactly the same as I am now.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
All right. Are you ready for some trivia?
I am. I am.
I wish I had. Are you more? I know, this is sort of, you jumped on some Twin Peaks before this.
Mhm.
Are you a hardcore Trekkie?
I do like Trek. I
Okay,
am a
so I
Trek guy.
probably should have came up with, because there will be Trek, but I came up with a
Okay.
question for Twin Peaks,
All right.
and I don't know if this is hard or easy, but
I'm
are you
probably going to
ready?
get it wrong either way. So yes, let's
That's
go.
okay. Here we go. I don't know if you know, but Laura Palmer was found murdered in the
Oh my
opening
god.
2 minutes of the show. I know, spoiler alert.
Shit.
As part
Okay.
of the forensic investigation into her body, part of the autopsy,
Mhm.
they pulled a letter out from one of her fingernails.
Mhm.
Do you remember what that letter was?
I have Q stuck in my head. I don't think it's a Q, but that's my final guess.
Okay. Unfortunately, that's not correct. The letter
Okay.
was the letter R.
Okay. I was in the
And
ballpark.
yeah, it was right, that part of the alphabet.
Yeah.
And then this is a bonus question that's more just for kicks.
Mhm.
Maybe for the listeners, you can sort of shout the answer out into your windscreen. The letters, there's multiple letters that get found under multiple victims' names.
Mhm.
Every victim, even the one that didn't die, I feel like they pulled one out. You know who I mean, because she was found
Yeah.
with Laura. They all have a letter placed under their fingernail, and those
Mhm.
letters spell out a word. If you had to guess what that word is, what would you guess?
Well, there's an R in it.
I
So
can tell you it starts with an R. I'll give you that.
I don't know, I'll guess Ramsey. That's what I'll guess.
Not a bad guess. The correct answer is Robert, because
Okay.
the killer is Bob.
Fair enough.
So, I it's sort of a simplistic thing, but it's kind of a fun little
Yeah.
hook. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, so yeah, there we go. Oh, I still got my notes here. I need a little bit of that. So yeah, so what we're gonna do tonight, obviously we're down to Matt, unfortunately. So hopefully everybody's feeling better soon. So we're gonna Bookhouse Boys it, and this Bookhouse Boys is going to be a book that I've pulled off the shelf, and that book is something I think I've mentioned a few times, in passing. Probably it comes up when we're discussing things we've run or our past gaming, and that book is Deus Vult. I guess I got to hold it back here, from
Very
Mongoose Publishing. Mongoose Publishing is better known for Traveler. Yep, they're the current. Yeah, and they do a fantastic job with Traveler. 2300 AD they've brought back, which actually is near and dear to my heart. I'm so glad they didn't just stick with Traveler. They also might do. Do they do basic role playing? They might do BRP.
I think so.
Yes. And so a number of years ago, it's 2023. So one of my things I jotted down here in 2006, Mongoose, through sort of like this weird licensing agreement with some company,
Mm-hmm.
got the chance to publish a version of RuneQuest.
Yep.
Now, RuneQuest is something you've played. So
Yes.
some of this might sound familiar because you've experienced that system. Now it's currently with Chaosium, I think, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as part of that, they publish their own RuneQuest, and I think people start to say like, hey, let's get that right back, because that's kind of an old school big time game.
Yep.
So Mongoose Publishing loses the chance to do RuneQuest, but they still want to have that kind of system in their library. So they come up with something called Legend. So the Legend system is very much a RuneQuest derivative. It's, it probably strips out certain things like, is there something to do with elements in?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's different runes for RuneQuest.
Okay.
And then
I don't get
I think
it.
there's I don't either. Our friend Dave is throwing he's not listening, but he's throwing things at the windshield right now. Like there's 6 runes, and then like the magic system is based off the runes.
Okay.
And it's very complicated, so I played a fighter. So.
Smart move. Yeah. All of that is obviously not in Legend, but a lot of other parallels exist. It's like 3d6 for your stats.
Mm-hmm.
There's your skill. Is this true in RuneQuest, where like your athletic skill, starts as like your strength plus dex, that kind of thing, to get a baseline for your.
Character creation was a really long time ago, so
okay.
I don't think so, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, yeah. So I don't want to make this too much about Legend, because what I really want to talk about is Deus Vult, which is a setting developed for the Legend system. But yeah, the stats are, strength, con, size, intelligence, power, dex, charisma.
Mm-hmm.
You determine those stats by like rolling 3d6, or if you want to do a 3d6, 4d6, subtract the load. You do whatever you want. Yes.
Wow, all of that sounds like D&D 5th edition.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah. And then, some of the things that I really like about the base system, I've never played RuneQuest, so this is sort of my, it has hit locations, which is something I'm a big fan of.
Me too.
Armor does not help you determine hits. It just subtracts damage.
Correct. Yeah.
Something I'm a big fan of.
Mm-hmm.
It's got hero points, which is a pretty typical, mechanic to give you a chance to re-roll. I don't know if RuneQuest has something like that, but
it's called something else, but it's got something similar.
But it's got something, some
like
some parallel.
Brass balls or something. Yeah.
Right.
Bennies. Yeah.
Yes, RuneQuest, you've heard it here. They call them bennies.
Yep.
And then basically, I'm trying to think if this is something here. And then I believe the one thing that really jumped out at me with Legend, that I think it's Legend. Let me just reach down here. I got to take my headphones off.
This is where Art plays with himself on camera for at least 30 seconds. So we're having a great time. Oh, he's back.
So part of the problem is that when I started running Deus Vult, I started with Legend, but then I quickly went to Mythras, because that's currently in print and better supported. So I might be overlapping certain things here. But one of the things that is a really stupid little thing, but in my mind, it's Legend and or Mythras has the best way to determine initiative. And it's just the simple little thing, because what you do is you average your, in this case, it'd be your dexterity and your intelligence.
Okay.
You get an average of that, and then you add a D10, right? And it's the only time I've ever seen a system where being smart could help you in a fight. Because you're not necessarily being faster, but you're being smarter about it, right?
Right. Interesting. I like that.
Yes, and it's the only system. It might not be the only system. It's the only system I've encountered that had that little thing. And so every time I see a system where like GURPS has a speed, it's just a hard coded. When we played Call of Cthulhu recently, it was your dexterity.
Yep.
There's nothing for a smart person to be able to sort of outthink and sort of chess your opponent a little bit.
Sure.
So again, a little detail, it doesn't matter, but it's something that instantly, said, wow, that's a really nice touch. So that's sort of the Legend. Legend, sort of went out of print. And I honestly believe that some of the people working on RuneQuest editions, when they were losing their license, just developed Mythras.
Yeah, probably.
I really like this system. We're going to end up doing it for our British spy game. It's based on Mythras.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll get a chance to get bored with that D100 system in the pretty near future.
I do love a D100 system. So
nice. All right. So having said that, we're going to now get into the meat of the matter. So Deus Vult comes out. It is published by Mongoose. I think you can still actually buy some of the books in hardcover, and you can get a few others in PDF form only.
I'm checking you on it, and yes, you can in fact still buy Deus Vult on Mongoose Publishing. That's it. We can pack it up. We have actually found something that's still in print to review.
Did we do it wrong?
I think so. Just go ahead and shut it down.
Wait, you guys did Index Card RPG last time.
We did, and we played Call of Cthulhu and Pathfinder, which are all very much in print. So
I feel like we should just start the whole podcast over.
I think, guys, welcome to Star Trek Lower Deck. The
truth is out there. A podcast.
Yeah. Oh man!
All right. So
brought to you. Yeah.
Sorry, what were you about to say?
I was gonna make an X-Files joke, but we're here now.
So. Let's go for it. I love the X-Files.
No, I can't be put on the spot now.
Oh,
keep going.
So Deus Vult. There's 2 core books: the Sacratus Custos Training Guide. That's the player's handbook, and then there is the Game Master's Story Guide. Now, what this is primarily it is a setting, right? It adapts rules to make the setting work. The GM guide has enough rules in it. I don't know if it has all the rules you need to play. I think you do actually have to have Legend. Legend can be gotten for like $1 on Drive-Thru RPG. It's super cheap if you just want the PDF. Okay. But let me tell you about the setting, because the setting is what instantly grabbed my attention. The setting is 13th century monks in the Catholic Church who are a specially ordained group, much like the Templars, you might say, were specially ordained by the Pope to have extra
powers.
Yeah. And they are tasked with basically keeping the world safe from evil. And I say like capital E evil, meaning Satanism, witchcraft. It's the things that are not true made true. And it does sort of base it loosely on actual stuff. I think they take some pretty big liberties with it.
Sure.
But what can be really fun is that the monks themselves can be like a Mission Impossible team.
Yeah.
So you don't have to play it this way, but the things are there for you guys to have, like, Q inspired devices of the time. And they sort of wrap the whole thing in trappings of religious artifacts or, legends of that time in a way that I find is really convincing, because it makes it feel like a consistent whole, right? It doesn't feel like, just a hodgepodge of stuff glued together. It feels like a cohesive time.
You're not getting an exploding pen that's just been reflavored as a exploding quill, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, it's actual interesting religious, quasi-religious things that they've turned into items, which is really cool.
Yeah. So like one thing, for instance, that I've always enjoyed, and I might be, but it's the combat. I just want to make sure I'm saying it correctly. It's the combat thurible. Now the thurible is a thing that like a priest will walk down the aisle swinging and has like the smoke coming out of it. Yeah. So, they have a combat thurible, so stuff like that, and they have like, special goggles that help you see evil presence. And then the whole thing is wrapped around the idea that there's this conspiracy, that evil exists. You have to fight it, but you can't let the flock know it's there. And there's even like a prayer that's said in the book as part of the character thing that sort of explains the ethos of the order, which is the group of monks that the characters play, where it literally says something like, it's better to let like 1,000 people die than to have one person, know the truth.
Know about us.
Yeah. So it takes a very hard, kind of grim, dark line on how you treat common folk
Mm-hmm.
in the face of this presence, in the face of this evil, because I guess in a way, if you think about it, like, the thinking at the time might be, well, if you're good, you're going to go to heaven, so it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it's a reward for the sacrifice that you're making, right? Like,
Right.
thanks, guys. Yeah,
Exactly. And I don't want to, like, I don't want to make any comments about religion. This
sure.
game involves it, but hey, whatever. But so,
It's like getting all of the cool stuff from Hellboy, but just in a medieval setting, or medieval
yes,
X-Files or Men in Black, right?
that's perfect. Yeah. And so instead of being aliens and X-Files, it's going to be evil,
Demons. Yeah,
demons, hellhounds, things like
sure.
that.
Things that go bump in the night.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea is when you create a character, basically what you do is you sort of, like I said, you use the legend system to create the character. It's not that important. It's 3d6, whatever. That's not the point of this. But the idea is that you, you are initiated at Mont Saint Michel.
Yep.
Mont Saint Michel is a lot of people know this. Some people might not. It's a real place. You can go look up pictures of it. It's this.
I was about to say, it'll be here on your screen. We'll superimpose Mont Saint Michel in post.
It's a stunning architectural achievement. It's basically this walled fortress that stands just like when the tide is out, it's surrounded by water.
Mm-hmm.
When the tide comes in, I think there's like a path you can get to. And now they probably paved a road over it, but
I think the road still gets. My grandparents just visited not too long ago. I think the road actually gets covered still.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it is still an island most of the time.
Got it. Okay. So it's a really evocative location to sort of, and for me at least, to really get the juices going. And so, the Sacerdos Custos training guide, the player's guide, it spends a lot of time, translating some of the legend systems and rules into a more like, church kind of thing, like things like, contacts, backgrounds, things like that, training specialties. There's basically like, I think 5 things you can go into, and there's sort of your classes. One's called the Custodian of Arms. One's the Custodian of Secrets, the Mortification of the Body, the Mortification of the Mind, the Mortification of the Soul, and the Custodian of Words. So like the Custodian of Arms, you can imagine is like your fighter.
Yep.
The Custodian of Secrets, seems to be a little more focused on sleight of hand, stealth.
Is it roguish?
Very much so. The Mortification of the Body.
It's your healers, right? Your clerics and that kind of thing ish.
Kind of. Yeah, it's interesting. They have, honestly, weirdly enough, you can also get a little down and dirty on boating with these guys. I don't know why, but yeah, it's got like athletics, brawn, resilience, so they can resist. So maybe it's more like they can take a beating, take a punishment kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know who that would translate to in a D&D thing, but then the Mortification of the Mind, it's sort of weird. They could be more of a, you can get into courtesy, commerce, so they might be a little bit more of a front-facing face kind of character.
They're the front of the party.
Right? Yeah. Then there's the Mortification of the Soul, which
maybe that was because spoiler alert, I've played this with Art in kind of a different light. We'll get into that, but
yeah, so it might not be a 1-to-1.
Yeah, but that's what I'm playing a Mortician of the Soul. So
okay, and I might have made that a little bit more. So in this book, it's like art, courtesy, culture. I might have made it slightly more bardish.
I know you do. It's very bardish things.
Yeah, because I know you play the bagpipes as part of your power.
They do. They do.
So yeah, and then like there's community of faith. So you can get your contacts. There's like wondrous devices, which involve like I was saying, like there's things called like a spyglass, which these days is just old
blasé.
Yeah, but back then, like there's one of my all-time favorite books is a book called The Name of the Rose.
Okay.
And it's a murder mystery that I absolutely love. That is basically this exact setting. It's a monastery in like the 13th century or whatever. And the main character, part of the thing that makes everybody go ooh and ah about him is that he has a pair of glasses.
Oh,
but
nice.
Of course, back then,
that's unheard of.
Right. But he knew like a Middle Eastern grinder that was able to make lenses in a certain
Sure.
way. So it's sort of his mythic status is that he has something that we can take for granted.
Yeah.
So there's things like that, but there's also things like a brazen head, which, you know, can give you answers to questions that you ask, or you know, so there are things that can give you sort of like I was saying, like Q-like devices that give you
Yeah.
special powers. You know, relics, you know, I'm kind of a low magic, kind of low fantasy kind of guy. But if the magic involves relics and prayers and alchemy, I can buy into it a lot more.
Yep.
So this game does that too. It you know, like Saint's finger bones. The order has a number of these relics. Each bone is from the body of a saint, and it can be worn around your neck, and it can give you a little bonus. There's the blood of Saint Januarius that gives you other bonuses. So like it sort of incorporates like real.
It covers both of those bases, where it's like these are cool things you can use in a game setting, but it's also got that really cool historical flavor that I think all of us like, right? Like
Yes.
it's cool to tie stuff in like that.
Yeah, and I think all of us. That's a broad generalization.
I was about to say all of us is in like our friend group. Yeah, we were all about that. Like,
right.
You know,
I think I've always been. I'll ask you. I've always been sort of fascinated by sort of the Templar conspiracy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
so,
how do you feel?
Well, my favorite and pretty much the only video game series that I still keep up with at all regularly is Assassin's Creed. Like that first one in 2007.
It's been a while.
Was like just opened my eyes to the horizon. And I don't know how much of the Assassin's Creed game stuff you did, but it's assassins versus the Holy Templar Order, basically. Spoilers.
Yes.
And it's just that whole conspiracy of how they control it's all very good, and I'm all for it. So
yeah, I mean, I enjoy an entertaining conspiracy anyway, but this particular kind of conspiracy is mwah. So so the Templars are part of this setting because obviously they would be, but and you can use them as a conspiracy. So and so, you know, again, I feel like I'm not so part of the character creation process that I do is there's something called the trials, and then it's the trials. It's something mentioned in the book. So every new initiate, in order to become a fully fledged member of the order, has to experience a trial. And the trial is something that takes you literally to your limit. And if you can survive it and pass, you become a member of the order. And it's not guaranteed that everyone survives this trial. And so one of the things that I like to do that is not necessarily, you know, decreed, but I like to give my player characters a chance. Like, do you want to invent your trial? And give them a chance to sort of, and I don't remember if you did.
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
So I played, just for the 3 listeners at home, I played an Irish guy, or a Gaelic guy, and he had to suffer the bites of 7 snakes from different parts of the world, representing the different 7 deadly sins, of course. So
that's right. Now that you refresh my memory, and I thought that was a great one, and I love that kind of flavor because I feel like doing that sort of helps get the player thinking,
gets them more engaged.
Right? In that way, right? Like, So, but the basic idea is, you create a character. The character has just been initiated into the order. The order is this super monk group that's here to protect the world. So that's kind of the basic gist of it. And then you get to the Game Master Guide, which I don't want to spoil too much, but what the Game Master Guide does, it provides you with, you know, tips on how to run Deus Vult. It talks about Mont Saint-Michel. And the reason why that's important is, like, it gives you, I'll show you, like, it gives you a little picture.
Nice.
And it gives you a couple of maps, but it also breaks down all of the personalities in Mont Saint-Michel. Now, because I've run Deus Vult twice. The first group, Mont Saint-Michel, if I haven't mentioned, it's off the coast of France. So Deus Vult is meant to be France.
French.
Yeah, it's France first, at least. You can go other places, but It's meant to take place but I decided, nah, I'm going to do England because I
Mm-hmm.
did France with the first group and your group is in England. So
Correct.
we didn't do as much with Mont Saint Michel as my first group did, but it gives you like a quick biography of all the big players at Mont Saint Michel, and it gives you little things about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So right off the bat, it's sort of setting things up like, hey, there's things going on in behind the scenes that your players are not going to know.
Okay.
There are things going on behind the scenes with this guy who's connected to the Vatican, and he's located in Italy. And they've stashed this guy away in Germany, and he's a little crazy, and he does this. So it's giving you all these different types of things. And it really does. And it mentions the person in England, like she's running something in London.
Londonium.
Right. And it gives you little tricks about what's all going on. And then it gives you like, hey, here's some of the evil groups, like sorcerer groups, which I'm not phrasing well, but groups of witches, and it gives you little stories
Sure.
about them. In the one we're playing right now, was it like the Brotherhood of Tuscany or something like that? It was like,
Yes, that is our villain group.
right. And so what I thought might be interesting, because I was sort of reading through it, like, okay, what motivates them?
Mm-hmm.
What's their connection to this group or that group? And then it sort of suddenly made me think, well, why would they be in England? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to, it really lends itself in my mind to sort of a puzzle box conspiracy kind of thing, what's going on behind the scenes based on how it presents the information.
Right. And I think it's been you're doing a great job with that, and
I appreciate that.
I'm sad that we're winding that down. And I'm really sad that I think I'm probably gonna miss the finale of that because I'll be
There's a chance
on baby duty. Wow.
you've gotten most of the finale
Still
done,
though.
but there's
Yeah.
little mop ups that could still happen, I guess.
Oh man, my bagpipes. Just make sure somebody good uses them, or that they, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Like it's been really cool as you've pulled back the curtain on that, and we've seen and dealt with this conspiracy thing. Like I want to play more of it. Like, and that's always the yardstick for a good RPG is, oh man, like the bad guy ran off into the woods. Like I really want to go chase him down, and like let's part 2 is Electric Boogaloo in Tuscany. Like let's go. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at least for how my brain works, the stuff that it puts into the text to sort of spark ideas really clicks with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because I'm so drawn to that sort of Templar conspiracy, The Name of the Rose. The other book is Foucault's Pendulum. Basically, there's 2 books by this author named Umberto Eco. One is The Name of the Rose, which for my money is the best murder mystery I've ever read, but 99% of the people who read it think it's boring as shit.
Adding it to my Goodreads.
You should, everybody I feel like should try it, but there's a chunk in the middle that is just like, oh my God, for a lot of people. But unfortunately, so, I was mentioning my father earlier. He was like, yeah, when I got to the ending, I was like, wait, that's it? And I'm like, yeah, the reason why that's it is because the middle part that everybody goes, oh my God, is what makes it not be, oh, that's it. So it's that kind of, and then his other book is called Foucault's Pendulum. And it's just like the most mind-grain inducing conspiracy book. You're just like, this is the most dense thing I've ever read, but it's all about.
See, now I need to look up that one too now.
You should at least look, because it's intensely dense. For some people, it's going to be like, oh my God. But if it's your thing, it's crazy. And
I love it.
It's a little, and so anyway, so because those are things that I really like, Deus Vult really, really clicks on that level. And so yeah, I apologize. I'm not very organized. I think Matt's really organized, but I'm all over the place.
This is how it was for Index Card RPG.
Like,
it's cool. We're rocking and rolling.
Okay.
So what sets this system apart in your mind? There are like, walk me through like a social encounter and walk me through a combat encounter and how they're different from, say, our usual yardstick of D&D 5e. Like,
right. So in my mind, and again, this is when I might start mixing systems up because I've played this more in Mythras than in Legend. But
Sure, sure.
so for me, what I really like is that. So I'll start with a combat encounter. A combat
Sure.
encounter, you know, like I said, it has that really interesting twist on determining initiative that I really get into. It has an interesting thing called combat styles, which I haven't encountered in anything else besides Legend/Mythras, where you don't necessarily have combat skills. You
Okay.
sort of have like sort of this catch-all little heading, like street urchin might be your combat style, and you can
Okay.
then mean I'm really good with a dagger
hmm
and a slingshot, you know, and you sort of tailor it to what it is, and it covers both.
Gotcha. Okay.
I found that a little clumsy myself because I could never wrap my head around it, but that's sort of how they do it. And then the basic idea is that you, again, this is definitely more Mithrasy.
hmm
You know, you get a certain number of action points, which is a number derived based on certain stats. You can get 2, you can
Okay.
get 3, depending on how your stats are. And then you start spending those action points to do things. So like, and it's not like you spend 2 actions to fart, 3 actions to like lift your arm.
Sure. It's not GURPS. Like
Right.
it's you're spending more in line with like Pathfinder, where okay, you've got 3 actions and you can
Yes.
do, this action costs 2 to do, or
Mhm.
to attack it costs you 1 action just as a
Right.
basic thing.
So
But
in,
it's yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, in this one, everything you do is always 1.
Okay.
So you get basically 3 chances to go in a turn. And that sort of economy can, you know, because an NPC might only have 2, but you have 3. So if you play it
hmm
right, you'll get the last move or you'll get the last
Sure.
chance to do something.
That's what I was going to ask is
Mhm.
do the baddies get the same number? Are they using the same kind of system or
Yeah, usually the way things are simplified, and again, this is leaning a lot more Mythras, is that you just say give
sure.
them 2.
Okay.
It just makes the math simpler. But what it also does is it often means that there are going to be certain PCs that have 3 and,
hmm
you know, can do a little bit extra. And then you basically, other things that I like about these systems is it's positional. So it matters which way you're facing. It matters, Mythras especially, it matters if the enemy is on your shield arm, if you want to get that tactical.
Oh wow. Okay, that
So
detailed.
yeah, it can be that detailed. But I find that it's not crazy,
hmm
if that makes sense. Like it can be
Sure.
manageable. And then sort of the real heart of the system is something like special actions. So when you roll to attack, it's always you're comparing, right? It's an
Okay.
opposed roll. So you roll your attack, the enemy rolls his attack, so to speak.
Sure. His active defense or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, and then you're comparing levels of success. So you can succeed or critically succeed. You can
Gotcha.
fail or critically fail.
Just like in Call of Cthulhu, if I'd actually read the rules again.
Yeah, yeah. So these are all probably BRP, basic role playing
Yeah.
based. So you make those comparisons, and so if you have 1 level of success, like if you succeed, they fail, that's 1 level of success.
hmm
If you critically succeed and they fail, that's 2 levels of
2.
success. And so you would get a number of special actions depending on how many levels of success. You get 1 for each level of success. And
Okay.
these can be things like, you know, bypass armor, you know,
hmm
disarm, you know. And so it can sort of add some flair to the combat as well as speed it up.
Okay.
You know, you can like do a knockout blow kind of thing. So I think the idea is you're meant to not beat each other to death until you run out of hit points, like
Right.
D&D. You're
Yeah.
meant oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm agreeing.
Yeah,
I'm
so I think you're meant to succeed in a comparative fashion and then use that to create openings and exploit them.
gotcha.
The main drawback I've found, at least with Mythras, Legend's not as bad,
hmm
is the number of special actions can be a little unwieldy. So that unless you really internalize them, you're gonna be sitting there going like, okay, what do I want to do? Flip.
Yeah. So it's a system that rewards a group of 3 to 5 people who are all bought into the system and say,
Yes.
okay, this is what we're going to play.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's the kind of guys that you're going to have, and gals, whatever,
Mhm.
playing, that are like, okay, we want to play this super medieval conspiracy X Files, Men
Right.
in Black, and this is our game that we play every month or every 2 weeks. And
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, and it's going
And
to reward that.
we'll get to this, you know, like a little later on, maybe near the end. the number one reason why I converted Deus Vult to Savage Worlds was to get away from those special actions.
Yeah.
Because I had players, it was a couple times I had players say like, you know what, I don't care enough to figure out the special action, just keep going.
Yeah,
and
that's a shame.
Yeah, as soon as that happened, I was like, yeah. And it just so happened to be around the time I was discovering that Savage Worlds is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so awesome that I carry around my core rulebook with me at all times.
Nice. Are you getting the 5th printing?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I'll get a PDF of it if I need it.
Yeah, and just have it for reference. Yeah.
Right. But
right. So what I'll say is like, you know, it gives you like a little bit of every single person in Mont Saint Michel.
How many pages of that is there for Mont Saint Michel?
So the people might be like 20.
That's pretty good for a little book like that, because I imagine there's about 100 pages in there.
The Game Master's Guide might be like 160.
Yeah, to have 20 pages, to have an eighth of that dedicated to just personalities in one place, that's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, and like I said, you know, they give you little pictures, they give you little bios, they tell you how to play them if need be.
Yep.
And you know, here's Tallis, the preceptor of London, the person that you
I know her.
With. Yeah.
Yep.
And so it really gives you a chance, you know, it gives you the structure of the church. It, you know, gives you a little background about the Inquisition and how it could tie into the Deus Vult setting. You know, it gives you, like I said, some witchcraft groups, some sorcerer groups. It gives you everything you need to get started. But for me, what was really great is that it gave me like, you know, a foothold in, and then I started adding and trying to come up with stuff. There's other books in the series that can fill that in if you don't want to do that work. There's like Shadow Societies, you know. There's sanctuaries, which are different places around the world that are what you could imagine.
Can you give me your 3 favorites out of that? I imagine you've read that cover to cover.
I have. So let me see. They actually only have 3 sanctuaries: Cairo, Cologne, and Trove.
Where's Trove?
Trove. I might be saying that wrong. Troves. But so, and what they do is they give you little adventures for each of these.
Cairo sounds really interesting. That sounds really cool to me.
Yeah. And they also have like a campaign called, you know, I never say this word right. It's Rouen. Yeah. So, you know, it's a French city. And then there's also one in PDF that takes you to the Holy Land. And I don't think it starts there, but I think it builds there. Yeah. So there's plenty of materials if you don't want to make up your own. But for me, what I do and what I did, for me, this is my Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
This is the exact kind of fantasy, like almost exact kind of fantasy I'd like to run.
So like not fantasy.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So very low magic, but it, you know, re-flavors the magic into religion, miracles, you know, things like that.
No, it's really cool, and I love the setting, and this is getting me all horned up for it again. And especially too because I'm coming at it from a different side. I haven't read these 2 books that you recommended. I'm definitely going to read them because I'm almost done with Cold Moon Over Babylon. Thanks, Matt. Great recommendation. And I'm looking for something to read. But just like I said earlier, my formative years of gaming and RPGs and everything were around Assassin's Creed and that kind of thing, which was the same time period, the same secret society stuff. Like it's hitting all the right buttons for me. So I'm really sad that you're just making me sad that I'm gonna miss the finale. Like I know that it's just buttoning up and oh no, like
well, we'll have to do it again. And what I find myself doing is when I read another system or another adventure, specifically adventures, I'm like, oh, you know, this would really work in Deus Vult. And so what I ended up doing is like, you know, the adventure you guys are currently running through, I took from the system Shadows of the Demon Lord.
Oh, nice.
Because I read this and I was like, I'm curious about Shadows of the Demon Lord, but this would make a great Deus Vult adventure. And you just, you know, and for me, it's easy to convert because I'm converting whatever the stuff is into the real world, right? It's
So, bouncing off of that,
Mhm.
would you consider Deus Vult to be like your home system? Like, is that where you're most comfortable? Like, that's when you, because you say you read something, you say, "Oh, that'll go into Deus Vult."
Yes.
Like, so this is where you live, right?
This yeah, and yes. Yeah, so this is the
Okay.
setting that, it's easiest for me to picture, it's easiest for me to spin
Okay.
up ideas in, and it's the system that got me back into GMing as an adult.
Okay. Gotcha.
And it's because I love this idea so much.
Hmm.
So currently on the Black Cloud Trivia Night channel, you may see some videos up of me playing Darklands from back in the
Hmm.
early 90s. Darklands is kind of this setting as well, and it's something that's been formative in my
Sure.
thinking of what I like in gaming. And so when I decided, like, hey, you know what, I'm ready to put on my big boy pants and give GMing another try.
Hmm.
I was like, how can I run Darklands as a role playing game? Because it's something I knew I'd be excited to do it, right?
Right.
And I did a lot of research, and maybe it was faulty research or incomplete, but I
Hmm.
came across Days Vault and I was like, that's it.
Okay.
And so I don't know if it's one of those you always remember your first, even, or if it's
Sure.
because the draw was so strong that I was going to naturally think of that anyway, even if I didn't have a system to put it in. And I know,
Gotcha.
like, what's the vampire stuff?
Masquerade.
Yeah, so that company makes Dark
Yep.
Ages Inquisition, which is like a lot more of a, I think like a darker, edgier kind of version of.
Isn't Never mind. I'll ask you. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay,
Uh,
so I think Dark Ages Inquisition is one version, and it's by the company that does like Vampire. And then there's also from the Call of Cthulhu folks, Cthulhu Dark Ages.
and
So
that is something that caught my interest big time, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to run that."
right,
Or,
so it's probably very similar.
hmm yeah,
So so I think I would have found something eventually.
sure,
And but what I did appreciate about Days Vault was that it really leans into it. Let's get to the Savage World part of this.
yeah,
It lends itself to being a lot more fun.
yeah,
I think that's what I was trying to get at with Dark Ages Inquisition, where it's, I'm reading, yeah, it could be, a little heavier on the, trying to be grim and edgy and,
yeah.
and
See
whatever
that
you want to interpret edgy to mean.
there's a yeah, I get you. There's an edge, like I love Warhammer and Warhammer 40K, like, but
Right.
that's just grimdark to be grimdark for grimdark's sake. Like, it just pushes it, like, here's the line, and it's just we're 100 miles
Right.
ahead of that line. Like, it just
Yeah.
it doesn't even take itself seriously anymore, and it's but then there's the super gritty, like, did you ever see this Into the Spider-Verse movie, the
The
animated one?
first one I did.
The
Yeah. I haven't
first one.
Yeah.
So, Nicolas Cage's character, Spider Noir?
Yeah.
That's like there's that level of grimdark,
Right.
like, where it takes itself super seriously, and it's just, like, it gets a little much, and it yeah.
Yeah.
So, don't be Spider Noir for RPGs, everybody.
Right. And so, yeah, I think once I started stumbling across these other things, I think had I not discovered Days Vault, I probably would have landed on Cthulhu Dark Ages.
Okay.
And I gotta say, if you ever run that, like, rock hard, I'm in.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I mean, the next one for me might be Weird War.
Eat
Savage
the
Worlds.
Reich. Oh no, would it
Well,
be?
oh, so I mean, of course, when I come back, Eat the Reich is going to
Right.
be it's near and dear to my heart. I am
Yeah.
so I salivate every time I see another Kickstarter update. Like, I'm so
Right.
ready. No, but there's a game series called Weird Wars in Savage
Mm.
Worlds,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
there's Weird War 1, which I have run multiple times and is fantastic. Great war, but Cthulhu-y, conspiracy theory-ish,
Right.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen kind of stuff.
Yes.
And then there's Weird War 2, and then you go back to, like, Weird War Rome and Weird War. I
Oh.
think there's a medieval one too, and
Mhm.
it's Dark Age Cthulhu basically, but with a Savage World spin to it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So as I said, you guys, the version you're playing is what I consider my final version of Deus Vult. And that is when I converted it from the original Legend. I, first tweaked it to get it running in Mythras, because Mythras had VTT support where Legend did not. And that was essential to me getting this off the ground.
Yep.
Deus Vult is also the one where I discovered Foundry. So there's a lot of a
lot of firsts.
Yeah. And so, but then finally, there's some things that just felt like a weird fit. Like you have these like weird devices, you have sort of these cool, and then they even describe it as like, yeah, you can run it as a mystery, you can run it as a conspiracy, you could run it as James Bond, the monks.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw that, I was like, that feels Savage Worldy.
That's yeah.
And so Savage Worlds, it was so, again, maybe it's because I love Deus Vult. It was so easy to bring it over. And I think that's a credit to Savage Worlds, but just like finding one-to-one sort of things to represent, like the St. Januarius's blood. Oh, that could be this. It was just so easy to pull over.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to say, like, do you feel like it kept the flavor?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that's what I want.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say we're not gonna turn this into reviewing Savage Worlds because we want Matt to be here for that.
Yes.
And it is my favorite system. And Deadland, if Deus Vult for you is Deadlands for me. So and it's just, I've run so much stuff just converted over to Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
Just like I've run Star Wars games, I've run World War II games, I've run Sword and Sorcery. Like, it's just everything that you want to do is just, that's why every time we look at the shelf, like, oh, what do you want to play? I'm like, well, I've got a bunch of these other games that I could read about and learn how to play, or we could just play Savage Worlds. And good job, Pinnacle. I know you guys are listening.
Yes. They're one of our 34 subscribers. So thank you very much, Pinnacle.
Yeah.
I will say, and so because like I said, I don't want this, Bookhouse Boys to be about Deus Vult, the rule system behind it. It's the spirit of the setting and, what that setting can evoke. And for me, the perfect pairing, even though it took a little bit of work, was once I got it over to Savage Worlds, because then everything, it felt weird in like sort of a D100 system that could get pretty granular to have like these gonzo devices.
Yeah.
And it felt, and so like it turns a lot of those gonzo devices into like bonuses and stuff like that, where I feel like Savage Worlds can turn some of those gonzo devices into actual powers, spells. What do they call their perks? Is it perks?
Yeah, it's perks.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's different, I know we're embarrassing ourselves that we don't know this thing. But sort of like the beneficial traits you can take. I know GURPS sort of has this
edges.
That's what edges. Thank you. So it lets you have sort of more flexibility how you convert these gonzo devices into gameplay. And so, and I know that Mongoose currently has the rights to it. I wish it was still more actively developed, because Legend is not actively developed.
Yeah.
And I do wish they could start to separate the setting from the rules a little bit to make it possible. Make a 5e edition, get paid. Make a Savage Worlds edition, have fun, And so
notice how we kept those two things separate, everybody. Fun and pay. Anyway, we'll get our cease and desist here in a sec.
Yeah, Pinkertons.
Pinkertons
knocked.
Yeah.
So it's I think that's fantastic. I mean, who, like, of all the people to call
Pinkertons? I'm so glad that we live in the 1920s, where you can have union busting goons show up. Anyway, let me get Moonpunks off the shelf over here, and we'll do a review of that. But anyway,
So it was just so I just want to say, like, once I got it into the Savage World setting, it's when it finally felt like, here we go, it's finally done.
Yeah.
And and it's been a joy to play. It's always it's been some of my favorite campaigns to run. And I say like the first one that I did, I did in sort of Mythras, which is like almost the native rule set, and
Sure. Close
the
enough anyway.
yeah, and the Game Master Story Guide has this really nice little starter adventure in the back of the book.
Hmm.
And when I read that, because I love the setting so much, I just started having all these ideas.
Yeah.
And so I ended up expanding that little intro adventure into what I thought was like a really fun time that set up hooks and established this and had, little conspiracies going on and like,
Right.
oh, she's doing weird stuff and you don't quite know why yet. And, it was just an absolute pleasure to dive into. And part of me wishes I had that Savage Worlds mentality right from the start. I think we would have had so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I again, I can't say it enough that I have had an absolute blast with, and I've only caught the Savage Worlds part of Deus Vult. Like I'm very sad that I'm missing the end of it. I'm
Yeah.
very excited for when you run that Cairo adventure for me and Matt here on this channel,
Yeah.
and yeah, that definitely needs to happen. Just so you know.
No, I will tell you, like, it's the one I will always happily, like you were saying with you in Deadlands. It's the one like, oh, you guys are feeling that? I can definitely come up with something.
Yeah, I can. We can. I can always whip out a Donner dinner party scenario, and
Yeah.
let's go. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's
So, okay, so I've gushed like a fangirl the whole time, but that was expected.
sure.
You are a player and it was sort of your first. Did it sort of did I set any expectations coming to meet them? Was it something you were actually curious about where you're just like, yeah, hell, I'll give it a shot. Why not?
Well, I mean, on the other places that you can find me, I'm the game slut, right? Like I'll play whatever anywhere.
Right, that's
And
true.
so, but I had wanted to take part. Actually, to be perfectly honest, I'd wanted to play in an art game. At the time,
Hmm, thank you.
we weren't doing. Yeah, you're welcome, Dick. Um, we weren't playing in Black Lodge Trivia Night yet, and I'm like, oh, Art's running a game, and I've been trying to get through all of the GMs that we know, and I'm like, I want to play in a game that Art's running. Um, and so the opening popped up, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to play in that. And the amount of prep and everything that you did for it was fantastic and a good time. And again, I was going to be suckered in no matter what because I like the medieval setting. I like the fact that it's all conspiracy ish. So it was twisting my nipples just as much as everybody else. Just like I was really excited for it, and then I get to be a bagpipe playing crazy Gaelic guy, with a mace, like sign me the fuck up, right?
Yeah.
So
So did it live up to all that?
yes,
Okay. And did it,
absolutely.
because you guys were the guinea pigs, did it work in Savage World so far?
Yes, I would say, and I think this is just a Patrick preference. I don't know if I would play the same type of character again. Like the more games I play, the more that I find myself just if I'm not I want to be more directly impacting the action. Like I don't want to be a support character. Like I don't want to be a,
Right,
a
right.
cat a caster in the back lines. Like give me some heavy armor, let me go smash some stuff, or a loincloth and let me go smash some stuff. And just be that big dumb guy in the front lines, right? And so playing the support character, and again, this is not a knock on you. This is or Savage Worlds or the setting. It's just the way I tooled my character up. And I think old Padrig has done okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's had his moment to shine. Freebird Bagpipes was good.
Yeah.
But and whatever distracting everybody saying that the plague was coming is a good time. But it's yes, it has checked all the boxes. I have had a great time with it. Being able to explore the setting has been really fun, especially because we're all history nerds, deep
Right,
down inside.
right.
And it's like, okay, cool. I get to walk around. I'll never walk around medieval England as a person, so being able to do this is cool, right? So
Yeah.
it's been an experience, and I'm happy to have been a part of it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a blast, obviously, for me. And kind of the thing I'm starting to realize about Deus Vult is that you don't, you may not actually need Deus Vult to run a
Sure.
mystery in the 13th century, right? But I will say that Deus Vult, brings to it, because like I said, there's Call of Cthulhu Dark Ages and Dark Age Inquisition. They're very similar. It's like evil devil monsters, invade Europe. But I will say that Deus Vult has a little bit of a lightness to it that I thought made the conspiracies fun. It's not trying to, right. It's not
Sure.
trying to be like dark eyeshadow goth,
No, it's not. It's not. Again, it doesn't take itself seriously,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
In a
it
great
does
way.
it does to a point, right?
Right.
Like it doesn't cross the line though, and it's a very hard line to define and talk about, but it's a good time. So
I will say the one thing that running Deus Vult in Savage Worlds was really one of the great things about it was that it showed me I wasn't sure how Savage Worlds would handle an investigation, and I thought it handled it great.
yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we really only got into combat of I think about 6 or 8 sessions. Like we fought 2 or 3 of them. Like
Yeah, barely any.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and we had a great time every night. Like so yeah,
Yeah.
it did very well.
And part of that, I think it's a credit to the players. I mean, you guys make it fun, right? But I don't
Talk
think oh, sorry.
talk a little more.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
talking.
I mean, the players are just, oh man,
Oh,
like
just
you don't
so good.
just a combination of just excellence you rarely see these days.
Handsome and girth.
Like-
and that's
Like 85 Bears, kind of, you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about. But
yes.
yeah, but it showed me because I have like Realms of Cthulhu, I have Deadlands Noir, and I was like, but does it work? Because it's meant to be Gonzo, right? I kept hearing the word Gonzo every time I thought of Savage Worlds, and I don't think that what we've been doing has necessarily been Gonzo.
No,
I mean,
don't it can get that way.
Yes, the climax was like, okay, yeah,
Sure,
it's going nuts here.
But the individual, like what we were doing, like yes, the characters. I don't know. I haven't thought of it that way, right? Like I don't think that the characters ever had a moment where they felt, we weren't cleaving through 100 zombies in a session. Like we were able to, we had people go down and get hurt, and nobody felt overpowered. Like when you say Gonzo, that's what I think. Nobody felt like they were Supermen, right? Like it's yeah. I mean, they were heroes. They're heroes, obviously, in a B movie, but B plus movie. But
right.
but it's they're not plowing through red shirts, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So
all right. Well, I don't know. Is there anything? I feel like I've sort of droned on and on in a discombobulated way for long enough. Is there anything you wanted to?
We've had diary of the mouth for about an hour now. So no,
nice.
It's been good, man. How many? We'll do the little wrap up.
Yeah. I can take us out.
How many thumbs do you give it?
So obviously it's 12 thumbs up. It's definitely a damn fine cup of coffee.
Yep.
It's or is it a slice of apple pie? I don't know which it is. It's a slice of apple pie, right?
Oh God, Matt's not here to correct us.
I know the adult's not in the room. I don't know.
Oh no.
But whatever it is, it's the good one.
I think both. Like it's a cup of coffee and a slice of pie.
For me, it definitely it's one of the best for me, and I think it's at least worth checking out. It's over at Mongoose Publishing. I'll try and link to it in the description. But otherwise, Patrick, I really appreciate this. It was really fun for me because I love it so much to just have a reason to talk about it over and over and over.
Yep.
But otherwise, we're gonna get out of here. We're Black Lodge Trivia Night. We have our YouTube channel here where you can watch all of our actual plays. We've got some video game stuff, and we've got Bookhouse Boys and Damn Fine Coffee. If you don't want the video portion of that, if you want audio versions of the actual plays and Bookhouse Boys and Damn Fine Coffee, it's wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky. We're at Black Lodge RPG. And we'll be back soon. Hopefully everybody's feeling well on Matt's end. And we'll probably be back with some Otari pretty soon.
about to say Otari, and then after Baby, we'll probably have some Star Trek Adventures coming out.
That would be great. Yeah, I'd be up for that. Yeah.
And you and Matt are going to do some spooky season stuff, I think. So
that's the hope. Yeah. Well, yeah, we haven't planned it out too well, but
it is. We are a quarter of the way through October almost. So
better get on it.
Yeah.
All
fellas,
right.
everybody.
Yeah. Take care, Patrick. This was great to chat with you.
Good time as always, man. Take care.
Take care.
All right, bye.